The reconciliation bill is the most extraordinary legislation you've ever seen. Did I hear that correctly?
There may have been some lost in translation
I
there.
understand. I was a little late. Tell me what the bond market's telling you.
Bond market's fine now, functioning well. It's pricing, it's reacting to economic news. There's adequate liquidity. Rates have come down pretty significantly from where they were a couple months ago. So,
why is the dollar tanking while inflation still eats away our wallets? And why can't these so-called experts give us a straight answer? Welcome back to the channel, your home for real talk, unfiltered truth, and real American pride. Now, I just finished watching a Senate hearing clip where they discuss the dollar, bond markets, inflation, and yes, tariffs. And viewers, let me tell you, it's more of the same bureaucratic doublespeak and globalist hand-wringing we've come to expect from these elites who clearly have no clue how the real economy works for real Americans. This is the Prodigy Unfiltered.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, did I understand you to say that the reconciliation bill is the most extraordinary legislation you've ever seen? Did I hear that correctly?
There may have been some lost in translation there.
I understand. I was a little late. Tell me what the bond market's telling you.
Bond market's fine now, functioning well. It's pricing, it's reacting to economic news. There's adequate liquidity. Rates have come down pretty significantly from where they were a couple months ago. So I think I think inflation expectations have come down a bit from April, and in general, the bond market is functioning well.
Okay. Explain to me why we have seen in the last few months weakness in the dollar.
That's a great question. And of course, the Treasury Department is responsible for the role of the dollar. So I don't know. I think I would go back to the thought that markets have been digesting an unusually challenging set of circumstances, and have reacted the way they've reacted. The dollar's kind of stabilized now. In fact, it's moved back up here in the last couple of weeks a bit. And there are plenty of people who are still writing that the dollar is still overvalued. We don't have a view on that, of course, but I wouldn't really have an opinion on exactly why it is where it is.
Well, clearly there's a lot of geopolitical risk right now, which would lead one to conclude, all things being equal, that people would be flocking to the dollar and it would be stronger.
Well, you have seen some of that here in the last few days. But again, I don't really have an official view I'd like to share on that. I think there are possible explanations, multiple possible explanations. Again, one of which is that some people still feel the dollar is highly valued.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
I want to talk for a few minutes about tariffs and inflation. What does history tell us about tariffs and its impact on inflation or deflation?
So the thing is, we've been through a long period in which tariffs were going down. Remember, since World War II, really, it's been a process of lowering tariffs globally. So there just isn't a lot of modern learning on that. I think people look at the incidence of tariffs during the president's first term, but those were like 1/6 the size of what's people are estimating now. And they do find some effects on inflation. But remember, in 2019, when those tariffs were put into place, the economy was slowing. We actually cut rates 3 times. Inflation was running at 1.5%. So it was a very different time. This is different. I think one of the reasons why it's so challenging is that there really isn't a modern precedent. Yeah. And I think we have to be humble about our estimates. And we are very open to the possibility that transmission through into inflation will be less than we think, or maybe more than we think, which is why we're in a position of wanting to take our time and make a smart decision as we see how this unfolds.
Well, obviously, the size of the tariffs makes a difference, does it not?
It does.
And we don't know yet the size of the tariffs.
We don't. And we don't have a view on any of the merits at all. That's not our job. Our job is inflation, as you know, and maximum employment.
will it also matter? Let's assume that there is upward price pressure. Would it matter how much businesses decide to pass on versus just eat? Does that make sense?
Yes, that matters. That is what matters. The question is who's going to pay for the tariffs. Originally, it's the importer, but it gets passed along through the distribution chain to some extent to the consumer. The ultimate question of it is how much of it does show up in inflation. And honestly, it's very hard to predict that in advance. So we're watching to see, what shows up in measured inflation.
If the president's trade negotiators pursue reciprocity, which I define as both sides reducing, in a quid pro quo, reducing tariffs and trade barriers as much as possible. Ideally, in a perfect world, we would end up with two sides with zero tariffs and zero trade barriers. Would that be inflationary?
No, not at all.
That would cause the economy to roar, wouldn't it?
I think it would be.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your endorsement, Mr. Chairman, of the reconciliation bill.
They start off talking about the bond market. According to this official, it's functioning well. Liquidity is fine. Rates are coming down. Okay, so basically, Wall Street is happy. Great for hedge fund managers in New York. But how about Main Street? You and I aren't living in that bubble. We're still battling sky-high groceries, crushing gas prices, and Bidenflation eating away our savings every day. So sure, the bond market's doing fine, but the American people? Not so much. Next up, the dollar. The senator asks, why is the dollar weak? And what does the witness say? Basically, we don't really know. Seriously. That's the answer from the guy in charge of understanding our economic backbone? He admits that the dollar has been weak for months, blames challenging circumstances. What does that even mean? Folks, when the dollar is weak, our purchasing power shrinks. Everything costs more. We pay more at the pump, more for imports, and it hits our middle class and working families the hardest. And don't forget, under President Trump, the dollar was strong and confidence in our economy was high because we had leadership that stood up for America. Not this globalist waffling nonsense. Then comes the most baffling part. The senator points out that geopolitical risks are high, which should make investors flee to the dollar. That's Economics 101. But again, our expert shrugs and basically says, we don't have a view on that. No view? You're in charge of steering America's economic policy, and you don't have a view? This is what happens when we have bureaucrats, not businessmen, running our economy. Now, let's talk tariffs, the issue they're all afraid to tell the truth about. This guy admits there's not much modern precedent. Translation? They're clueless. And when they do bring up Trump's tariffs from 2019, they gloss over the facts. Let me remind you, those tariffs were about protecting American jobs, forcing China to play fair, and bringing manufacturing back home. Inflation? Barely budged. And we were cutting interest rates, not watching prices skyrocket. Today, we're printing money like there's no tomorrow, and they still pretend tariffs are the problem? Give me a break. They talk about whether businesses will pass on the cost of tariffs to consumers. And that's fair, but here's the thing. Big businesses will always find a way to protect their profits. You know who gets squeezed? Small business owners, truckers, farmers, and you. That's why we need smart trade policy, reciprocal trade. America First Trade. Host on camera, hopeful tone. And finally, something I agree with. The senator says if both countries drop tariffs and go to zero, the economy would roar. Amen. That's exactly what President Trump pushed for, a fair playing field. Not endless trade deals that sell out our workers for cheap labor in China. That's what we should be fighting for, not more bureaucratic excuses and economic theories that never work in real life. So, what do we learn from this hearing, folks? That the people in charge are still guessing, still hedging, and still more concerned about the opinions of the IMF than about the plight of hardworking Americans. It's time we had real leadership again. Leadership that understands the dignity of work, the value of the dollar, and the power of patriotic trade policies. That's what we the people demand. That's what Trump delivered. And that's what we need more than ever in 2024. This is The Prodigy Unfiltered. Like this video if you agree, subscribe for more truth the mainstream media won't show you, and drop a comment below. Should we bring back tariffs? Or drop them all for 0-0 trade?